Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani.
I'm Danielle.
And we are here for another great episode. We've been talking since yesterday on weaponized incompetence and are excited to be continuing that conversation today. But before we do, we want to make sure that you take the time. Well, first of all, Last Chance Weekend is coming up. It is June the 13th through the 15th. Make sure you register. The link is in the description. Yeah. Definitely do that. You do not want to miss it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Hassani. You don't have to toss the ball to me when
I'm
we
just
say
saying,
that.
like, share, and subscribe.
You all know
make
what
sure we when you do, can I talk? You gonna give it to me and you gonna keep talking. When you do this, you're telling YouTube that you like us and that you want this message spread all over the world.
Yeah. Listen, y'all, the Phoenix Awards Gala is coming up. Please. We keep telling you about it. Have you even been to the website to check it out? Go to the phoenixawardsgala.org, phoenixawardsgala.org, and definitely check it out. Make sure that you are nominating someone. We want those couples who are standout couples in the community, in your church. You know they've been through some things, but they're still standing strong to be acknowledged and honored on that day. It's November 6th through the 5th through the 9th, right? No, 6th through the 9th. 6th through the 9th.
Yep,
okay.
November. All right. So we're talking about weaponized incompetence. Danielle started yesterday with laying a foundation for what weaponized incompetence is. Can you once again re-articulate for those that may be joining for the first time and are jumping into a great conversation? What is this whole concept of incompetence?
It's interesting because it's something that you've been hearing a lot about in these, social media streets. And it's basically when somebody intentionally pretends that they don't know how to do something, because by doing that, it gets them out of the situation. In other words, I can just pretend that I'm incompetent and I don't know how to do it. And I know that eventually you'll kick into it. Eventually you'll get so frustrated with me that you'll just do it. Right. So you see this a lot coming up in the home, the dynamics of when we're growing up as a child, the older sibling will get frustrated with the younger siblings. The parents are going to be coming home soon. The house needs to get clean. They're doing a crappy job. The older sibling says, forget it, I'll just do it. And they do it well, right? And so from that point on, those younger siblings learn, if I just do it sucky, then my older sibling is going to take over. Well, this plays out in all kinds of different areas in life. This plays out between husbands and wives a lot. This plays out in the workplace. There's always somebody that is slacking off. We all know the person that he's always getting acknowledged, but never really is doing anything. All the employees know that's the joker that's always like kicking his feet up, relaxing, skipping responsibility. But then when it's time, when the boss shows up, he's showing up getting the medal. So this is something that you're seeing all throughout society in different facets, but it's really, really prominent within married couples. So yesterday we were talking about that as it relates to domestic support. And that does relate to the children. We didn't talk as much about the children. We'll get to that in another week. But just in the home, the imbalance between husbands and wives when it comes to women being out in the workforce and actually having to also come home and have a second job.
And so, another area of focus that is a real pain point for a lot of couples. And obviously men, when men are alone in their own social spaces, we have conversations all the time about it, and we're crying and we're bleeding and we're begging and we just don't understand and we're pulling our hair out. And it's a struggle for us. And interestingly enough, some women suffer from the same thing. In fact, we were just talking to our business coaches on yesterday, and they introduced us to a thread that I was not even familiar with called Dead Bedrooms on Reddit. And it talks about all of these individuals within a marriage who feel trapped, and they're suffering from the bedroom burden, where one person takes on the main responsibility when it comes to sexual fulfillment in the relationship, because it's not a mutual exchange. It's not a mutual interest. And so one is carrying all the weight, and it creates a whole lot of problems. So there's a lot of sexless marriages out there, a lot. And we've come across this for years. And so some would think sexless marriages implies zero sex. Now, it could, in some rare occasions. We work with couples who have gone several years and beyond a decade without a single touch. But statistically, a sexless marriage is a couple who engages in sex anywhere about one time a month and as low as 10 times a year.
Isn't that interesting? Like, that's something that I don't think most people know. Like, when did that become a sexless marriage? Like, okay, what was it? One time to how many times?
One time a month and as low as 10 times a year.
That's considered a sexless marriage, y'all.
I mean, if you can count how many times you're having sex, it's pretty sexless. Like if you can count, you know what I'm saying, on two hands or less, it's pretty much the same. And once again, just like a person who's legally blind, they're not 100% blind. Like they can still see objects. It's blurry. I mean, they're vision impaired, and a lot of couples are sexually impaired. And what we're finding is that incompetence is one of the contributing factors. You say, okay, I get how it shows up, you know, when it comes to domestic support, because if I can't cook, I just can't cook. But what does that have to do with sex? Well, interestingly enough, people have different preferences, different expectations, different desires. And if someone does not have the desire, if there's an aversion to sex, if for whatever reason there's some type of insecurity, inadequacy around sex, it shows up in the bedroom and it presents a problem. So one of the things that we typically hear people say is, you know, I'm gonna just read it. I don't know what you like, right? So we've been married for 5 years.
I don't know what you like. Say how it sounds. I don't know what you like.
You know what? I was about to say, ninja, please.
Say it like you mean it.
How do you not
I don't know what you like.
We've been married for 10 years. We've been talking about it. We've been having conversations about it.
Yeah, I think, you know, so just like with yesterday, there's all these excuses why these things happen. I think that sometimes if people are saying, I don't know what you like, and they haven't asked, because that's the other part of it, they won't ask, right? There could be some aspect of it where the person has tried to give the person what they like. They have tried to do it the way that they like it, and they don't do it right, or they don't do it well, and the person doesn't like it. And so now they're just like, I don't know what you like, right? Because they try and they don't get it right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You know, let's just talk when we deal with different types of personalities. And I see this all the time. We're sitting in front of couples. One partner will reveal to the other what they're not doing. And they're motivated. And they're like, cool, I'm not doing that. Guess what? I'm about to know. I'm about to be an expert in that space. Another person tells their spouse what they're not doing right, and it literally crushes their soul.
That's true. That's real.
Isn't that true, deep, Danielle?
Yeah. I mean, I think
like they become paralyzed.
Yeah, because you're married to who you're married to, and you don't know what they've been through and how beat down they've been and how many failures they've been through, right? You don't know how many times they've tried to get it right and they always get it wrong, right? And so you do have people in relationships where they are tiptoeing, especially in the bedroom kind of conversations, where they're tiptoeing around subjects, right? They don't feel comfortable saying what it is that they need or want because it could be crushing to the person's soul.
Yeah. And so this whole idea of I don't know what you like, really, it's an excuse, right? It's just like try. Try for me is a curse word. Like it's very non-committal. Like I'll try. It's almost like I really don't want to do this, or I'm really not going to put much into it, but I'll try just to say that I did it. And when you take that approach in a sexual relationship, which should be a mutually pleasing and fulfilling experience, it leaves one feeling obligated and it feels the other one unsatisfied. And it creates a significant shift in the relationship. And guess what, folks? When there's issues in the marriage, it impacts the bedroom. But when there's issues in the bedroom, it impacts the marriage. And so we've seen how a lot of people have emotionally disconnected and unfortunately have engaged in inappropriate relationships because sex. Now, we know the top 5 issues most couples struggle with: communication, finances, parenting, in-laws, and here we go, sex. So after it's almost like being in school, going through class, giving instructions, you're participating in it, and somebody just shows up. They're not engaged. They're sitting in the back. They're not paying attention. We both in the same classroom. One comes out as a valedictorian. The other one flunks out. They both had access to the same stuff. So at the end of the day, it was will, desire, focus, attention, and all those other things. And if I'm married to you and you're the only person that I could be in a covenant relationship with where there's a benefit of sex, I need you to know.
I love the fact that we have men commenting today. One person is just like, word. That's all they said.
Did you click on it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dennis says, word. I wish you would elaborate. Could you give us some more insight on what word means?
That's man talk.
Yeah, so that we can understand exactly what you wording about and what you agree to. So come back with a full comment, please.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Word. But listen, let's talk about some of these other issues. So, I don't know what you like. That's one issue. Another thing that we often hear, and when I say we, I'm not talking as a man, I'm talking as a spouse, because this is a two-way street and this works in both directions. Mm-hmm. One of the other comments is, I'm just not good at that. Like I've tried, it's just not my thing. I'm not good at that. Now, I will say this, let's just bring some balance to this. One of the things that can destroy a sexual relationship is when you have outside influences that change desire and expectation for what you experience in your marriage. So if we're bringing porn in and I see certain things done that I now want you to do, if we don't understand what went into what you saw, then we will overestimate the ability of doing something in a relationship, which probably can't be done. First of all, the first comparison I make is this. If I go to a basketball court, the park cross street, and I play a game of pickup, right? Pickup basketball. But LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, and every superstar
this
basketball
is such man
court,
talk.
You'll understand it. You'll understand it. I mean, the most elite basketball players are on the court. They're all 6'8" and above. Uh-huh. And I mean, I played in high school, but I was all right. There's no comparison. I'm going to lose every single time. There's a level of professionalism, skill, and things of that nature that they have that I don't have. Likewise, when you're seeing pornography, you're dealing with people who are in the sex industry. Okay, they've spent their life or career, if you will, becoming professionals and gaining skills and doing things that are not normal or common in a normal sexual relationship. And so when you bring in such a high expectation into your marriage, into your bedroom, it can cause problems. And so we have to be clear that we have to learn how to protect the marriage. That's number one. All right. So we don't want to do that because it can create self-esteem issues and then comparison issues. And then, I don't want to even show up in the bedroom because I know what you're judging me against. I know the metric that you're measuring me against. That's a problem. But separate from that, it becomes an excuse if the only thing you say is, I'm just not good at that. Mm-hmm. Well, sex is a skill that you can increase and improve over time, just like communication, anything else. Yeah. So why not put the work in?
What's interesting? As I'm listening to you, my eyes started to glaze over and I checked out when you started talking about sports. And then I said to myself, oh, wow. My lack of interest in sports is another version of weaponized incompetence because but when you started talking about the porn, I was back in. So, I mean, it's just that like a lot of what you're saying, people bringing in comparisons, right? That's a huge thing, right? If you're looking at, first of all, it doesn't even take pornography. It doesn't take pornography for there to be comparisons going on, right? Comparisons can happen in the man cave, right? For sure. Where men are talking about this, that, and the third. Comparisons can happen when you're just hearing conversations about other people's sex life, and now you're comparing it, and now you're looking at your situation. But I agree that, when you're looking at other things like pornography that are rooted in, literally, it's like reality TV. Mm-hmm. Every scene is framed, and everything is positioned, and everything is just imaginary. You don't understand what's really going into that. There can be these unmet expectations. So that's one thing, somebody wanting you to continue to raise the bar. And I've had clients like that. I've had clients where the wife would say things like, is it like he wants to have sex like 5 and 6 times a day and that's not enough? Or like he wants me to do this, he wants me to do that. And she's just worn all the way the heck down.
That's a whole nother issue.
That's extreme. But I love the comment that Kia here is making. She's made quite a few, so I'm going to go ahead and give her the floor. And she says, marriage changes over time. You have to be willing to hear your partner's heart and also ask for what you need without being mean or critical. It says, if there are issues, this is why it's important to go to a therapist immediately when the problems arise. I also think that some spouses want to introduce sexual aspects into the relationship that the other partner may not be comfortable participating in. Last comment. And it says, if your partner wants to try something sexual that the other person feels uncomfortable with, then you have to make sure that you ask them for things that make them feel seen and loved. I agree with that 100%. 100%. She got a lot to say, but that's all you getting today.
No, but she's right. All those points are valid.
100%. I think that, as with everything, because we're talking about this weaponized incompetence, right? This idea that I'm intentionally doing this to you. And, when it comes to asking for the support that you need, right? Or asking for what you need, even in the bedroom, it's all about how you say it. It's all about how you say it and the way in which you position it. Because I think a lot of times people come to their spouses in frustration, because they're frustrated. It's the same thing with any other incompetence that a spouse has. They're frustrated. And so it shows up as frustration. It shows up negatively and as obligation. And that's a turnoff.
So, yeah, just get rid of that comment on the screen. But I want to get back to the nature of the conversation, because when you're dealing with sex, it's easy to you're dealing with any topic. You can spiral off into so many different areas, but we're talking about intentional incompetency, where I'm going to fake like I don't know, or I really don't know, and it's by choice. I don't want to know. I don't want to improve. I don't want to get better. And that is where the problem lies. Like, I think one of the sexiest qualities about a person is their commitment to personal growth and development, because you're always going to get someone better, right? For sure. Who you were when you said I do it pales in comparison to who you become over time when you're committed to that.
And there's something to be said about that, because the fact that you're married and like, we got to be together for the rest of our lives. Right. Like, that's our heart. You know what I'm saying? This is not a starter marriage, right? And so, so with that, the self-development part of it means that I get to become a new person, and I get a new person out of my spouse the more that he learns and develops. If he's still struggling and doing the same things or can't do the same things that he couldn't do 20 years ago, that means that there's no development going on.
Exactly.
And vice versa. So that development piece is sexy, because now you got a new person. That person brought on a new skill, a new talent, is doing new things. Like, that is sexy.
It is. I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about a mindset here. And if you have a growth mindset, you will grow in every area, including your sexuality. But there's so many, Danielle, I can't tell you.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Because Dennis didn't come back with a comment.
I'm just saying, there's so many people who have such a limited belief about oneself. They live a life of self-deprecation, self-cancellation, self-denial. They convince themselves about what they can't do, what they can't be, what they can't have. And that mindset impacts every area of your life, particularly in a relationship. And the challenge is, if I'm growth-minded, but I'm married to somebody who has a limited mindset, we're in for trouble, particularly in the bedroom.
I see that a lot. Yeah, that I hear that complaint a lot. Feeling like they're married to somebody that does not have a growth mindset. Now, before I go to Mr. Dennis's comment, I do want to make an invitation to everybody who's listening, everyone under the sound of my voice, please come on here. And we want to know, what is your experience with this weaponized incompetence in the bedroom? Okay, so come with those comments. Be specific to what we are talking about so that we can deal with that. Okay, so let me go to Dennis, because he got a lot to say all of a sudden. Hold on. He says, okay, people are now competing with pornography. It really lowers self-esteem due to comparison to one partner or the other, or both. Absolutely facts. Yeah. And this is not a gender specific thing, right? You can have men comparing their wives' bodies and positions and all the things that they do. And you can have women comparing the porno guy's body and all the things he could do. It is toxic to bring pornography into your relationship, especially when that is your bar of excellence, if that's what you're looking at. And then he goes on to say, comparison is a deadly killer. Intimacy starts before the bedroom. Facts. Okay, he came correct. He came correct. I think he was saying boom because he was just loving the topic.
Yeah. He said word.
Oh,
by the way,
right.
It was word. But yeah, I mean, these are the problems. These are the situations. And at the end of the day, since we're talking about porn, if you introduce that into the bedroom, it reinforces incompetency, because at the end of the day, it's not even about me trying to fake it. I can't do that. So why are we bringing that in here?
I can't do right. Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm not going to look like that.
Okay.
I'm not going to be like that.
Yeah.
It's unfair. And the one thing about pornography is perfect. Everyone's beautiful. Everyone has a great body. Everybody has stamina that can go on for
unless you like the other kind of porn.
and hours and hours and hours.
Because there's lots of porn. Some folks with jacked up bodies. Everybody look crazy and wrong. I mean, it's a fetish of all kinds.
But guess what? Porn represents the alternative other. Right. It is someone you're looking at that is different than me.
That's true.
It is something you're comparing me against that is not what we have. Right. And that creates the problem and reinforces incompetence. But let's go to another area, another focus within incompetence that's a problem, particularly for men. Okay, so I need the men to come strong and I need the women to hear it.
You need some backup.
Listen, at the end of the day, a lot of the issues in relationships we're responsible for. We take ownership of it. We have to become better. But in this space, there's been a lot of complaints from men. So I need the women to listen up. And here's not the number one, but one of the top complaints. The fact that their wives do not initiate. The lack of initiation is a lack of interest. It's a low level energy that you bring to the bedroom. And it's almost like, fine, let's do it. Okay, let's go. It becomes duty. It becomes obligation. And listen, at the end of the day, if I'm having a transactional sexual experience with a stranger, I could care less about them. I could care less because I'm doing the wrong thing with the wrong person for the wrong motive. But if I'm in a committed relationship with a life partner, I don't want her showing up feeling obligated, resistant, disagreeable, just a bump on a log, no energy, because now her body feels like a vessel of masturbation. There's no mutual exchange. And so men desire for wives to initiate. Now, the way you initiate is different than us, but we want to know that you want us. See, every man wants to be wanted. Every man needs to feel needed. Every man desires to be desired. And oftentimes after I do, the desirability that wives has for their husbands plummets significantly, according to the book Mating in Captivity, but men's desire remains the same. So this is what happens. We enter in like this and boom, this is what happens. Now there's a huge desire gap. And so no justification ever.
Right.
But
that's the reality.
A lot of men then say, well, golly, am I attractive? Does anybody desire me? Do I still have it? I just want somebody to love me or want me or desire. And so unfortunately, because they don't manage that well, oftentimes they'll venture off and find somebody who will desire them, even if it's for the wrong purpose, wrong meeting with the wrong foundation. But that whole initiation thing, Danielle, that's a big deal.
Clearly, it's a big deal to you because you sounded.
Danielle, you had so much passion yesterday speaking for these women. So now I'm going to come up in here all numb and speaking for the men because I know what it is.
Listen, you guys, we keep it real 100. But no, it's definitely very, very important for both of us to feel needed and desired. It's a big deal. And so it's really going back to ground zero, articulating how you need to show up and saying it in a way that is meaningful, that is not judgmental and hurtful, that really will encourage people to do more and show up in a better way. And then also, I think maybe conversations need to be had, because I think maybe sometimes men feel as though they're not wanted because they're also expecting it to show up in the way that they show up, right? You just said it doesn't have to show up the way that they show up, right? But maybe it's looking different. And that's another conversation that has to happen is, how do I show up when I'm desiring you or when I'm not desiring you, or what does it look like?
Well, we know how you show up when you don't desire.
Well, it's different. It's different for different people. Like I'll give you an example. Like in one of my moving forward classes, we talked about this, that there are some women that are very A-type, structured, leadership type people. And they really struggle with intimacy and like showing sensitivity. It's a barrier, something that they need to grow through, but it's like a fight, an internal fight. And so as much as they want to be, soft and pink, right? There's some resistance, this internal resistance within them that won't let them put their guard down. So it's almost like being pursued is easier for them than to actually initiate, because the pursuit of them somehow makes it okay for them to let their guard down. But for them to pursue, and I'm not saying that this is right. I mean, it's just education for people to understand that this is a thing where women really struggle to be soft and pink because they've maybe had to be strong and always leading and whatever the case. If y'all understand that, and if there's some people out here who can say amen in that corner, let me know. But I've heard that a lot. And I think that's why those conversations need to be had, because I mean, oftentimes men feel like they're not wanted, they're not needed, and a woman wants and a woman needs, right? We all have different needs at different times. It might not be showing up exactly how it needs to be showing up. And if you don't take yourself so seriously, that's the other thing. Like if you just don't take yourself so seriously in the bedroom and be willing to try some things and make some mistakes and it not be perfect and it not look like the Porto, then I think you could get somewhere, you know?
Well, let me speak to this. That's a good point you made about a woman who's like an A-type personality and not soft and pink. And I think society has created a prototype, as if there's only one prototype for woman or femininity, and it's soft and pink. Much like there's one prototype for a man and it's a high level of masculinity, whatever that looks like. But you see a whole lot of variation in between, because not every man is that and not every woman is that. And so if that's my expectation of you and you are not that, now that creates, it could possibly create shame and low self-worth because of the comparison. And so to your point, if for me, I want you to initiate like this, but it doesn't fit into your personality, this is why that conversation is so important, to say, okay, within the wiring of who you are, based upon your level of comfort, you tell me when you want to initiate sex with me, what cues should I look for? What nonverbal cues? How do you dress? How do you approach? If it's a level of discomfort for you, what space can you operate in? So I'm crystal clear that that's what you are looking to do. That way I could pick up that cue and boom, I will respond. I think that's so important, to your point, for couples to have these conversations, because it's going to look different for every couple.
Right. And going back to what I was just saying a little bit earlier and kind of tying it to this, you know, like if somebody is a strong woman and that's your woman, that's who you married to. I don't know if a man is wanting a woman to coming all up on her, you know, like being on lay your tail down. Like you've seen that in the movies, you know, you've seen that. Remember what was the movie? Norbit? You know, Norbit, how he was just treated like, do you remember Norbit with Eddie Murphy? Like, I don't think, you know, I don't want you
picking me up. You know what I'm saying?
So, you know,
putting me on the table.
Right. And so, you know, so we have to, you know, and maybe that's what some guys want. Okay, but I'm just making the point that like it's about communication. It's about communication and understanding also different sexual needs and levels too. Like that, you can't talk about this without talking about that. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that go into it, because when we're talking about weaponized incompetence, this is somebody who's intentionally weaponizing this behavior, right? This is somebody like weaponized incompetence is going to look like, I don't give a darn. I don't like it and I'm not doing it. And this is your punishment type of behavior, trying to escape, being a scapegoat and getting out of something. And so we have to really have these conversations to decide if our partners are weaponizing this, or if there's true incompetency there, if there's insecurities there that need to be dealt with. I mean, and the incompetence that I talked about just a moment ago, where people just don't know how to just take off the toughness and be soft and pink for a moment, that is an incompetence. Are they weaponizing it, or really is it their ignorance and they just don't know how to get past themselves? That's right. So there's a lot of growth that has to happen in all of this. The chat is blowing up. I think Kyra and Dennis got the chat this morning, but let me just go to a couple of comments here. Oh, and I see Tanya Leonard from New Jersey. Hey, sis. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. And so Dennis goes on to say, couples should always be free with each other. How it started when dating, it shouldn't stop when marriage kicks in. No matter what changes, both should make time for each other. 100% agreed. That's how you have a strong, healthy marriage, is to make time with each other and to, you know, and to grow together in seasons. Because the truth is that, you know, Hassani and I are very different, just like you and your partner are very different. And we have different seeds planting on the inside of us. That means that we have different growth spurts at different times, right? We're not the same. And so what's inside of me is going to have a growth spurt, maybe at a different time when something is inside of him, maybe it's still dormant and it's going to spurt up later. And I'm saying that to say that we need to have conversations continuously so that we're trying to stay on the same pace. Otherwise, we're constantly doing this in relationships because we're constantly having all these growth spurts. This is why we are an advocate of us doing things together, learning new things together, playing together, reading together, because it really does help us stay in pace with one another. But if y'all are not doing that, coming together, relearning things or reestablishing different rules and regulations as you grow, you're just going to find that you're just hitting and missing all the time. And then Kyra also has a comment. She says, the reality is that some people are selfish and they only care about their needs being met sexually. That's a fact. That's 100% facts. Yeah. And then she also has another really great comment here. I'm trying to find it. She was talking something about hygiene. And that's another really sensitive subject as well. I can't find it, but to paraphrase it, she was just basically saying that, another thing is that people don't know how to approach hygiene as a subject with their spouses, right? And I have heard this as well. Just sometimes people's partners, they don't believe in showers, literally. You know what I mean? They want to get into bed after a long day. They haven't taken a shower and they want to get it in. And it's I know you're making the frown, but this is real. Oh, yeah. And it's a hard topic to address. It's like I have to give my body to somebody who doesn't understand the importance of hygiene and how that will affect pH balance and cause all kinds of other things after the fact. So it's a lot of communication that needs to happen, because that also, to me, is weaponized incompetence in the bedroom, just on the other side. It's not like I'm not trying to give it to you. I want to give it to you, but I don't want to do what is necessary to make sure that you're taken care of, that you feel safe, that your body stays healthy.
It should be a mutual benefit. It shouldn't feel sacrificial for any one of you. So I agree with that point. There's a couple more points regarding this incompetency. This next one is a big one that causes problems because, we talk about pillow talk, right? The importance of, having intimate conversation prior to, during, and subsequent to the actual intimacy. Now, in terms of the aftermath, the conversations that you have after you've been intimate, this can also be a very sensitive and touchy space because oftentimes a spouse will avoid feedback, right? So maybe not immediately after, but sometimes if you're having like your work day and you're having a conversation and you're talking about what happened and what went right, what went wrong, sometimes a person could be avoidant of that conversation and just automatically responds with, you'll never be satisfied. Nothing I ever do will ever work. And while one is saying, hey, maybe this is what we can do to improve, how we can make things better, how we can increase our intimacy, the other one is completely resistant and shuts down. And so there is no room for growth or improvement, which is a sign of weaponized incompetency. Listen, you don't like it. It's not my need. I'm good. It is what it is. So it just remains a pain point in that relationship. And then the last piece, because I know we can go on for hours and hours and hours with this topic. The last area of incompetence is when you're turning sex into a chore, right? So once again, we were talking about duty sex a little bit earlier, but it's a first of all, it's how can I say this? It's miserable for both. It's miserable for both. The one who desires it and their spouse shows up like it's a duty is miserable for that person. But it's miserable for the person who always feels like I have to lay my body at the altar of sacrifice to please and accommodate you, though I don't want it, though I don't get anything out of it, though it's not satisfying. And so this is why these conversations have to happen. These work days that we keep talking about, where you have courageous conversations to dive into the depths of it. And if you struggle to have these conversations, that's why you come to us at Couples Academy, so that we can help facilitate these conversations.
Nobody says work.
Take this while you.
Okay. Nobody says work day. There's so many comments in there, by the way. Nobody says that work day can't be work on your sex life day. I mean, that should be on your pie chart that you learn how to set up when you work with us. Everybody knows all the issues that they're supposed to be working on, and sex, if that's an issue, it should definitely be one of those. What was the last point again that you took the notes and I forgot the last point? The last point was lack of.
Well, we talked about lack of initiation. The last point was turning sex into a chore. Turning
sex into a chore. And so the issue, this is big. This is big. So every wife has been guilty as charged with that, because at certain phases of life, it has felt completely like a chore. And I think this conversation kind of holds hands with some of what we talked about yesterday with that domestic support piece, right? There are seasons in life where you just don't have the time, you just don't have the energy, and it does feel like a chore. And I tell wives, I try to speak life into them in this area that, sometimes you need a moment to get your head right, to go in the shower, talk to yourself, because your spouse needs you, regardless of how run down you are and all of that, your spouse needs you. And so you have to make time for that, but it won't be like that always, right? Yeah. There will be seasons where it doesn't feel like a heavy burden. It doesn't feel like you're a sacrifice. And then the other part of that is that, if it feels like a sacrifice because it's not good, that's a part too. That's a season too. When a couple comes together, whether you did it right, you never had sex before you got married, or whether you were in them streets before you got married, doesn't matter. If you're with your spouse, you now have to learn your spouse's body. You need to learn what makes them tick and what ticks them off, right? And so there's seasons and cycles that you go through with this where you can develop your skills, mutually, so that you're now pleasing each other, so that even when it feels laborious to a wife because it's just one more thing on her to-do list, at least it's pleasurable until your to-do list weans down and there's more time for your relationship, like in the beginning.
Excellent points. Excellent point. Listen, I hope that you're getting something from this conversation. I see the chat is blowing up and everybody has a comment and everybody has something to contribute. But what are you receiving? What can you bring back into your bedroom? What can you bring back into a conversation with your spouse that will elevate your sexual experience? So we're talking about not just sex today. We're talking about incompetency across a broad spectrum of areas within a marriage. And if you truly want to make things better, these are the things that you have to improve in. But if you're on that struggle and you just don't know how to do it on your own, this is why you reach out to Couples Academy, because for those of you who do not know, we're more than just podcasters. We actually have a private practice, and we work with couples all over the world, providing them with guidance and insight to help them find personal healing and marital restoration. So listen, I hope you enjoyed the show. We're going to end out just sharing some of our services with you. And until then, we'll see you tomorrow for another great episode. Take care.